Okay. So only like 2 minutes late today, like a new personal best. So we're going to talk a little bit while hopefully some people start to file in here. Sorry about being a little bit later today. I actually have COVID, so that is a thing. Yeah, last week I thought I may be coming down with it because my son had it. And today I know, yeah, I have it. But was feeling quite a bit better, kind of hit me again at the end today. So we'll see how it works. Let me know if you're in the chat here how the audio is doing. Today we're going to go over the Panasonic S5 II Release. I think personally we'll go into more detail about it. Personally, I am more happy with it now than I expected to be. And I think they've done some really good things. I'm very excited for Panasonic and Panasonic fans personally. We're also going to go over CES is going on right now, and there's been some pretty interesting things coming out of CES. One thing in particular is a monitor that is really good coming from Samsung. It's going to compete really well with the Apple display that's like $1,600, and I'm guessing they're going to do it quite a bit cheaper. Really good for editors if you're into video or photography and you actually need a good monitor. This might be something that you're interested in. Also, Sony has a car, so that's confusing. Besides all that, we're going to go over some of the new lenses that are about to be getting announced here at CES. But right now, let's go over to the chat and see if the comments are filling up here. Okay, so Edward is here. Appreciate you, Edward. If you are here, hit that like button. This will get it out to more people. And that way we can have a more robust conversation here. It's so weird, this new mic I got. It sounds good to me, like when I go back and play it back. And actually, so a lot of times I'll clip these videos out and I'm editing them. And when I edit it, it's really low. I have to pump the gain like 12 dB, 12 decibels. But right here, right now, I'm actually have the microphone turned all the way up. And then I have the Ecamm audio up to like 90. And so it's like almost at 100% gain right there. And it's just kind of weird because it looks like I'm almost peaking. But then when I bring it back in post, I'm not. So if I'm peaking, let me know. And if I'm too quiet, also let me know. So I'm trying to fix this. Last week we had the Ordinary Filmmaker was on here. Simon, he was telling me how low I sounded. And then when I went to play back and actually edit some of the clips out, I did sound low. So yeah, Edward said audio is good, just like the S5 Mark II. And I'm guessing that's fire, explosives, marks. I don't know. So Edward is somebody who, appreciate you, Edward, for being here. You're somebody who you kind of were disenfranchised by Canon, I will say. You just sold your R6 right before the R6 Mark II came out, and then I think you were going to go make your way over to Sony, I believe. Did you ever actually fully go over to Sony? And if not, is Panasonic kind of on your radar now? What are your thoughts, Edward? If you're here and you're watching, please jump in the chat. We'll enjoy each other's conversation if you can. If you can't, either way, hit that like button, get this out to more people, and we'll have a more in-depth conversation, and hopefully we'll enjoy ourselves in this corona-filled brain that I got going on right now. So yeah. If you're here, talk. Edward, did you leave me? Did you leave me, Edward? It's okay. I will, like I said, going to be going over some of the topics. Not sure who was all listening. Main topic, of course, is this Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II. I think I was calling it SH Mark II last week. I think I actually made like a whole thumbnail calling it SH, just because it just reminds me so much of their SH line, or that's what I'm really thought of, their SH1. But yeah, I'm very excited about it. We'll go into more details about the specs, as well as we're going to go into details, just kind of my impressions of it. But overall, yeah, kind of spoiler alert, I think it's a pretty cool thing. Okay, Edward said, I was disappointed by the R6. I'm trying the R6 Mark II at the moment. I do own the A7 IV. I'm planning on renting the S5 I'm Mark II. I'm interested. Yeah, or S5 II, Mark II. I'm not sure. They it's confusing, but yeah. Um, yeah, it's an interesting camera. I was really impressed. Gerald, I'll mess it up. I always put Jared Poland and Gerald Undone, but Gerald Undone, he was like so impressed by it, talking about the value of the camera. And I really do think if you're like a video centric person, I think if you're like 60% video and 40% stills, and your stills isn't super action like, I think Panasonic is making a really good case for themselves. I think the IBIS on it looked nuts. It's like crazy, the IBIS, the smoothness of it. It almost looks like they brought their whatever they're doing with their APS-C technology with the Micro Four Thirds. It looks like they brought that to full frame and looked great. Personally, I think it's kind of odd. Okay, so I think it's odd that they're not better in general. Like if you look at a GoPro, like why is GoPro's digital stabilization so much better than a mirrorless camera? Is it really just that sensor size? It's digital. It's not even really moving. Same thing with your iPhone. They have that steady shot mode that they can do stuff. I don't understand why no one's cracked the code better than even just Panasonic. I mean, Panasonic's doing great, but I mean, even better than that. Like you have GoPro mode and all that stuff. I don't understand it, but yeah, maybe it's just a lot more computation. 8K is okay. Says thinking about the S5 2X, or what did Gerald Poland call it? He said it was the 8. Anyways, it's funny. But it wouldn't be. Anyways, I'm not gonna go over it. I'm not gonna steal his joke. He says thinking about it. Currently own the S5. Okay, so do you find, I mean, obviously the huge improvement is the phase detect autofocus here. Do you find that the contrast, I call it contrast just for fun, do you find that super limiting in the S5 currently, or are you pretty okay with it? I'm guessing if you're somebody who's been using it, more than likely you're probably more accustomed to using manual focus, but it's nice to have a good phase detect autofocus. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more in depth here in a minute. I said I don't have as much of a plan today just because the way my brain's working, but I'm committed to showing up every week, and I enjoy it. The time when I'm here, I'm just like, I enjoy talking cameras with everybody. But yeah, my brain is not functioning on all cylinders here. I thought I was getting better actually, and I was like throughout the middle of the week, like I was like, oh yeah, I'm completely done. And then today I woke up, I'm just like, what happened? So yeah. Anyways, we'll see. Hopefully I didn't catch something different. Hopefully it's just still the vid. All right, so let's go ahead and go over some of the stuff. So what I'm going to do first, because sometimes we get lucky, is I will go ahead and go over some of the I'll go like Canon Rumors. I'm going to go to Sony Alpha Rumors, and I'm just going to refresh. And sometimes we get lucky and we get like a breaking news story right on the spot that we can really dive deep into. And sometimes we'll just kind of catch up on some of the smaller stories here. And then, of course, we'll go into the Panasonic main event. I want to talk about that monitor a little bit more. But if you are here and you're watching, please hit that thumbs up. We get this out to more people, and we'll have better conversation, and it really helps out the channel. I'm very much appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and go, and I'll share, and we'll go over. So we're here at Canon Rumors. Let's see what we got going on at Canon Rumors. Okay, so this was something I did see yesterday. It looks like this is nothing straight up new here, but this is a RF S lens 11 to 22 f 4.5 to 5.6 image stabilization. So coming the first half of 2023, this, to me, it's a fairly basic lens. It's not going to be like a high price lens, but that being said, it makes sense because this is probably going to be a kit lens, I would think, or it's possible it's not going to be a super expensive lens, and it could be something that's going to be coming around with, you know, the R10. And if they have really, they say they're going to have like an R50 or an R100. If they have something like that, the way that they, you know, their M50 Mark II replacements, they're going to need some cheaper kit type lenses, or just in general. It's not going to be the greatest of lenses, but it's going to be small, compact. You know, it's going to be a lens that it's going to work. It'll take its pictures. It'll be there for the people who need it. I do like that they're actually widening out the focal length and making it 11 to 22 with an APS-C crop. I think, what is that going to be? Probably like a 16, close to a 16 to 35, or it'll be within that range. So that's probably what it's kind of working towards, actually being, you know, like the vlogger style, you know, wide in lens. So yeah, it's, I'm glad that they're actually coming out with more RFS lenses. They greatly need it if they're going to have any kind of real APS-C shot with their cameras here. I do still wish and do still think, I mean, this is the first half of 2023. Right now, they only have 2 RFS lenses. It's kind of sad. It's not sad, but at the same time, they really could use some help from some third-party manufacturers, and I really hope that they rethink their decision to close off the mount even more so than they have in the past. It'd be great if they just fully opened it up, but I think that's maybe asking for too much at this point. But they could really use some Tamron and some Sigmas in here, get some extra, especially on their APS-C lineup. Yeah. But yeah, they need to fill up that lens, that lineup way faster. Full roadmap 2023. All right, so here we go, and let's go ahead and go to Sony Alpha Rumors, see what they have in store. Summary of Sony Sigma and Tamron lenses coming. So these are stuff coming. This is really soon. This 60 to 600 millimeter f 4.5 to 6.3 coming on January 12th. This is a pretty cool lens to me. This is I like those catch-all lenses, because the kind of videos that I like to make and, you know, aspire to make, I make them sometimes, but are more travel type stuff, and I'm like to be running gun. So like right now I have the Tamron 35 to 150. That's going to be kind of my catch-all, and then I'm going to have a wide angle. But it would be nice to have another lens that's, you know, kind of gives me that telephoto range. One thing that I had, the 100 to 400, which was super light. I wound up selling it. It was nice and compact. I felt it too limiting for the particular type of stuff that I was doing. And when I was traveling, like where I was in Vietnam and stuff, when I was traveling and I was in a location that I just didn't have time to do a lot of lens switching. And so it was too soft too, and the autofocus wasn't that great. So hopefully this will be a step above. I would assume so that this will be probably a more expensive lens for sure. I'll be interested in it. Anyways, the next one, they say a 20 to 70 millimeter f4G, likely on January 17th. So this is interesting. I haven't really considered an f4 coming out anytime soon, but a 20 to 70 is a really good focal length. It's in general, you know, your 24 to 70 is usually like it's like the standard lens that pretty much everybody has to have, or whether or not you have to have it or not. It's, and generally speaking, it's kind of like the normal catch-all lens that everybody's going to have. But bringing it down to 20 is very intriguing, especially if you can keep it pretty light. And being that it's an f4, I can see a lot of people using that as kind of like their catch-all lens. So that's pretty cool. Now, the lens that I'm most excited about is this one right here, and it's the one I've kind of held out for. I have the Tamron 17 to 28, which is, you know, it's decent, but after using I had the Canon RF 15 to 35, love that lens, and I'd love just being able to put one lens on a camera and just, for me, be using that like 90% of the time. And I just find the 17 to 28 to be so limiting. It's just not enough. And I was actually going to trade the 17 to 28 2.8 for the f4 power zoom lens. And I thought about doing it, and I actually had ordered it. It didn't come in time, and I thought about ordering it again. It was back in my cart. But now that I see, and I was holding out, hoping that this would happen, a 16 to 35 2.8 G Master 2, maybe in February. That's super exciting to me. I think that that's going to be a great lens. Tamron 35, 45, 90. Well, that's a cool lens too. A 90 1.8 and a 45 1.4. That's really good. 150 to 400, 2.8 to 5.6. So it's kind of really good on the low end. I wonder where that changes over, because this is only f2 to 2.8. So this is only f2 up until 40, I think it is. From like 35 to 40, it's f2, and then it's 2.2, but it jumps up to that 2.8 by the time you're at like 80 mil. So yeah, I mean, it's still cool. I like the way it does it. Overall, I usually, generally speaking, like to have a focal length, but I can always stop it down to the 2.8 and just use it, straight on through if I want to just do it that way. But if I want the extra light or want the extra bokeh, I can use it at the 2. If you're here and you can, hit that like button. If you're enjoying this, going through the news and camera stuff, be filling up the comment section. I'm going to go back to it. We can, have a conversation, but hit that like button. It gets it out to more people, and I really very much appreciate it. All right, let's go to Nikon Rumors. Now, this is new here, and so I may go ahead. Okay, we'll go over this one first, and then we'll go over the next one. So this right here is the 85 1.2S. We went over this lens about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, because they basically just completely gave it away that this was coming, and it's not a big shock, but it is a hefty boy here. I'm hoping that everybody can see this. This is a big old lens. I believe they're saying right here, I don't want to mess anything up. Okay, here we are. So this is a 102 thread. So they're not even, it's not even an 82. It's a 102, I believe. I think that's, if I'm understanding that, it's going to be a 102 millimeter thread. So that's a fat lens. Essentially, it's going to be, if not the same, it's going to be similar to the Canon version of that lens, which is the 1.2 DS version, which was so heavy. It was nice, and I'm sure if you're like a portrait photographer who has got to have it and needs the best of everything, that's great. But personally, I'm like, I'll take the cheap, macro 2, and that'll be completely fine for what I need out of it. But yeah, it was beautiful. I loved actually looking at it. It just was too expensive and too hefty for me. But yeah, for the people who need this lens, I'm sure it's going to be great. I do think they're not really giving a price here. There's no price leak that from what I can see. I do suspect it to come in $200 or $300 cheaper than the Canon equivalent, which is great. I think that's Nikon's MO right now, and that's what they need to do. They need to be very competitive in what they're doing. And I think it's very impressive what they're doing. All they need now is to come out with let's say a Z6 Mark III or maybe a Z8. And then that way they can really start to compete on the lower end and bring that new autofocus, the new system, to the newer stuff here. All right, let's go ahead. This is interesting. So this is new. This just got released, because I check these things quite often. This is January 6th. This got released on January 6th. So yeah, let's go over it. Well, first I'll go back to the comment section, see if we got things going on. I appreciate y'all. Some of y'all are hitting that like button. I really appreciate it. It helps out the channel. All right, where are we at? 8K is okay. Been waiting for the Panasonic to finally give us AF or autofocus phase detect. Also, the IBIS looks incredible on the S5 Mark II. It does. That is That's probably one of the most exciting things. I've said it multiple times. I would have went with the Panasonic S1H, like the original one. I was in the Fuji market, or I had the Fujifilm APS-C camera, so I was going to be like way jumping up, and I wanted to jump up to the system that to me was, I was going to spend the money to get the camera that I wanted, because I figure, a lot of these cameras, you can resell them and you get, some of your value out of them. Say you use them for a year and you resell it and you get quite a bit of your value out if you took care of it. And say it's like renting a camera for $1,000 for a year or whatever the case is. But also I just wanted to really push myself, and I was so looking into Panasonic, and they had me like this close to going Panasonic. But the autofocus was the big issue. But back then they were light years ahead of Sony. I think 10-bit didn't come to Sony. Was it till the A7S III, which was over a year later in their mirrorless market? I think it was, maybe 2 years later. It was nuts. The R5, and they were way ahead of Canon with their video features. And in some ways they still were. They were Netflix approved way before everybody else. So yeah, autofocus, I've been saying they're autofocus away from being like the best camera for years. And, I think they may be just proving that right now, considering this is their value option, which is nuts. Edward says, I do not know what Canon is thinking. Canon have to open that mount. Also, it's time to put C-Log 2 in the R5 Mark II, R3, and R6 Mark II. My aunt is on here. She says, hey, Matt. Well, hello, Kim. I appreciate you for being on here. Thank you so much. Now I'm having to watch my language. Thank you, Kim. But I appreciate you being here. I really do. Hit that like button. I think Edward, the C-Log 2 would be great. They never even added it to the R5C, which is odd. I mean, if you're really going to say it's in your cinema lineup, I mean, right now they're really just trying to put some kind of differentiator between that and the why can't I think of what why did my brain just go away from me for a second? Wow. I can't even think of it. The C70. Yeah, they were just trying to differentiate it from there. But that being said, like at this point, add C-Log 2 to those to the R5 C. But if they haven't added C-Log to that camera, I don't see them adding it to the other cameras just yet. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the RAW profile is C-Log 2. But I mean, not everybody wants to shoot in log. So, or not log, RAW. But so I'm surprised they haven't added it to the R5C, and if they haven't added it there, then I'm not sure if they're going to add it to the others. But we'll have to wait and see. I think the R1 could possibly get it. That might be like their, they say the one camera to rule them all thing. So yeah, if you're here and you're watching and you're liking, hit that like button, drop in the comments. We'll, enjoy each other's company, and I'm going to get back to some of the news here and let these comments fill up. But yeah, really comment, talk between each other, and I'll go back over it and read everything here. So right now we are on Nikon Rumors. The CPA numbers just came out, so we will see what they have to offer, see how the camera industry is doing. I'm going over to these first time right here with everybody, so let's get right to it. Okay, so if I can see the screen here, the numbers are really small. Okay, so it looks like this is 2022. No, 2022 is the orange. So it hasn't been near as volatile as 2020 was, which makes sense because that was the height of everything. That was when nobody knew what was going on. This looks right here. I guess this would have been April, which was right after lockdowns. And so, March, April. I mean, those were again February, January. Everything was super low. 2022 is looking, I would say, considerably better. Definitely more stable. They've actually maybe have found the bottom of the industry, or at least let's hope so. It looks like for November, let's go ahead and read their summary and see what they're saying about it. November 2022 CPA numbers, do you call it CIPA or CIPA? I mean, I know it's an acronym, but anyways, as compared with the single month of November 2021, the DSLR market shipped units, so, interchangeable lens cameras, that is just DSLR here, up 2.2%. Mirrorless was up 51.1%. So that is a huge up. And compact cameras were down 30.4%. This is kind of just making the cases here so let's go ahead and finish reading over, and then I'll give my more thoughts on it. Lenses for smaller than the 35 mil cameras were up 31.4%. And lenses for the 35 millimeter and larger were down at 10.3%. Interesting, just for the month of November, shipped value of compacts slightly exceeded shipped value of DSLRs. That is interesting, especially considering they're saying that they're down. Looking at November's production level, we expect December to have fewer shipments than November. Okay. So that is somewhat disappointing. CIPA has predicted that 5.29 million DSLRs and mirrorless camera bodies for the calendar of 2022, and Nikon has predicted a market of 5.1 million for April 22 to March 23. We have predicted 4.75 to 5.14 units in June. So I'm not going to go over everything, but let's just see what the uptick is here. We are now predicting that 5.8 million to 5.9 million as compared. So, I mean, this is a slight increase over the previous 2 years. As you can tell, the camera market, it's just really kind of had its peak in 2012. And then ever since then, it's been in a free fall. I mean, I don't know if it's full peak, but over in the 2000s, it looks like the peak was back here in 2012. We're about 1/4 of the market that we were in before, as far as units shipped goes, or units shipped and units sold. They're closely related, but they're not 100 1-to-1, obviously. But the free fall has been, I think everybody can agree, it's cell phones, it's smartphones. They're more convenient for 90% of the people. For a lot of the people who don't know how to, set the exposure properly and get the shot, and don't know how to set the composition up, and they don't know how to move their shutter speed and their aperture around and do all the stuff. Most people who are just shooting in auto are going to get better results out of their current smartphones with the computational photography. Not every shot's going to be better, but it's going to look nicer on their big screen, and they're going to think this is great. It's way more convenient just to put it on your social media instantly. Now, once you go try to print those things out, you see the limitations pretty fast. But, not everybody cares about it as much as we do. But it's nice to see that maybe they've hit the bottom in 2020 and they're starting to tick back up. I think a big reason for this to tick back up is because everybody and their mama does want to be a content creator at this point, it looks like, or they're trying to be at some point. In whatever field, not necessarily just cameras. Obviously, they're doing it for cooking and for makeup and whatever else, TikTok dances. But they're all wanting to step up their game, and they are looking for a camera to do that. And so I think that that's the reason we're getting a slight tick up. Let's hope that it keeps going up, because I want a healthy camera industry overall. But those are my thoughts on it. In general, it makes complete sense that compact cameras are still going down and mirrorless are going up, because compact cameras are the easiest camera to drop for a cell phone. You know, at that point, they're somewhat redundant, and the people who are buying compact cameras, even though you can technically still get better footage out of it and better pictures out of it, if you know what you're doing, most people who are buying those cameras aren't necessarily pros or even prosumers. So yeah, it makes sense that those are going down the most, and it makes sense that mirrorless is up the most because, you know, a lot of companies are going full-fledged into mirrorless now. So a lot of this is being up because finally a lot of the big professionals who are still shooting DSLR cameras are finally moving over to the mirrorless market, and that's a lot of the uptick in mirrorless. But it's still encouraging that it went up. It also makes sense in a whole lot of different ways. It's also encouraging to see that DSLRs are up a little bit. It just means that at least on the higher end, the camera market is going up some, and I appreciate that. But what are your thoughts on these CIPA numbers? Do you think this is a good sign? Do you think that the camera market has finally actually hit the bottom? Drop in the comment section below and let me know. All right, let's get back to the comment section, see if anything is filling up here. No, we're still got some shy listeners here, but I appreciate you listening. If you are here and you can get out and like this button, hit the like button. We'll get this out to more people. Very much helps out the channel. I don't mean to just keep saying it, but some people come in and out, and so somebody maybe hasn't heard it. So if you're here and you haven't hit the like button, do so. It really helps me out. Yeah, so let's go ahead and go over, and we'll continue down the line, and we'll see if we get lucky, and we'll keep going over these trades. Be filling up the comments before we go over to some of these main stories here. Okay. Mirrorless Rumors. Let's get this open up. So it says Sigma will announce the new 6600. We just talked about this, but this is going to be a really nice lens, it looks like to me. January 12th is right around the corner, so I'm excited to see this in the hands of the reviewers. The filter diameter, so this is a 105, so this is going to be a hefty lens as well. Most of my ND filters, I buy them at 82 millimeter because you can usually step up to it. But I mean, having a step down ring, I think that's not exactly working properly. You'd have to really zoom in for that to be effective. But yeah, I mean, it's big, but that means you're probably going to spend more on filters if you don't have it, unfortunately. It is a heavy lens. Not really a shock there. This is going to be for, I'm assuming, the L mount Alliance, and it's also going to be for, of course, the E mount as well. So yeah, the E mount is very slightly lighter. Nothing to write home about. We already went over this. We didn't talk about this. I'm not even trying to pronounce that because I am not going to say that. But yeah, we didn't go over this lens, the 26 millimeter 2.8, this pancake looking lens. I think it's really, I enjoy pancake lenses for what they are, but I do think it's kind of funny. Okay, so maybe this lens is indicating that there is going to be, say, a Z6 Mark III coming out very shortly, because I mean, I don't think you're going to put that pancake lens on the Z9. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's not there for the cameras that are already out, but yeah, that being said, yeah, the Z9, you're not going to put a pancake lens. Ooh, let me make this big brick more less conspicuous or more inconspicuous, or am I even saying that properly? But yeah, anyways, you're not going to put that on a Z9, but you could put it on a smaller body. So hopefully that's an indicator that there are some smaller bodies coming fairly soon. It'd be nice. All right, let's see if we keep getting lucky. Let's see what we got. We're over at Fuji Rumors. Just talking about some lenses. Nothing big here just yet. Some lens patents. I mean, some of this is fun to report on, but some of it is kind of fodder because, the patents come out all the time. Doesn't mean that actually lens is going to be here. If you're interested in the XT5, which I think is a great stills only camera, I think it was smart the way they marketed it. But if you're interested, it is back in stock. I like Fujifilm. They were my first camera, so I have a soft spot. All right. Let's go ahead and get to some of these main stories here. But first, let me go back to the comments and see if we're chatting here. The Happy Clam says, cameras have always been expensive, but things have gotten ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more ridiculous they've gotten in certain markets comparably to, like, if we think about inflation on so many different levels. If we go to adjust for inflation, I don't know how much different things really are, to be honest. I think what's probably more ridiculous is just the cost of living versus how much we make in general haven't really improved much since the 70s. So it's probably hurting us even more so to look at things now. They want everybody to buy things on credit. But yeah, cameras have been expensive and they look like they're staying expensive. But I'm hoping that, considering they're getting more pressure from, like the cell phone markets and stuff, maybe they will feel the heat of competition and they will step up. But yeah, I appreciate the comment, and you're definitely not off base there. I just think cameras have somewhat always been expensive. Looking back on some of, like, the D 1DX Mark 1 and 2 were like, and the 1D and the 5DX, I think it was the 5DX or the 5DS, the one that was like the first one with 1080p, and then there was the first one with 4K, I believe. They were nuts. Like, their pricing, I think, was either on par with or more expensive than they are today. And if you adjust for inflation, that's probably like, 10 to 15% less, especially with the inflation we've been having over the past 2 or 3 years. So yeah, there is that. But yeah, cameras are expensive. And I think the biggest thing is, our cameras, if cameras are going to justify their price, I think that is the biggest thing right now, that cameras need to really go above and beyond to justify that price tag. And I don't know that they have completely done that. For a lot of people, they haven't, hence why the markets went so far down. But I think that they need to really compete harder to justify a price tag, especially considering how good the other cameras have gotten, or how good the smartphone cameras have gotten. I'm not saying they're as good. I'm just talking about being very good for the masses. And so you got to say that you got to be aware of that. So there is that. All right, let me go ahead and go over to this first main story. And some people may be into this, some people may not, but I do think it is worth mentioning here. Because if you're into photography and you're into videography, then you need a good monitor, and this looks like it could be a great one. So CES is upon us, and with it, we're getting some of the new great tech that is coming out. And one big, huge tech improvement that I think is really coming after Apple in a big way is Samsung with their monitors. If you're in the market for a monitor, this may be one that you want to hold out for. This is pretty crazy. Let me go over some of the specs of this monitor that they have here, and just kind of show you all the good things about it. First off, this is just the general design. The Viewfinity S9 is the one I'm more talking about. They already had this Smart Monitor M8 come out. I believe it was around $800. And they're kind of trying to compete with Apple and their, I guess it says the, Studio Display. The Studio Display is ridiculously priced. Very nice monitor. I believe it starts at $1,600 and maybe $1,699, but it quickly moves up right around 2000 once you just want a good, nice stand that'll move up and down. So it's pretty ridiculous. But one of the things that people have liked about it is just the fact that, of course, it's Apple. There's that. The build quality is there, being that it's been aluminum. And then also, it's a good monitor overall. It has good contrast ratios. It's the nits has been it's a bright screen for what it does. And also, it's been 5K, and a lot of these monitors have stuck with 4K, and the 8K monitors have been just absolutely nuts. But anybody who knows that if you're trying to buy a color accurate monitor, they are expensive, and this could be a really good one that is going to be competing with Apple here. So this is coming to us from Apple Insider here. It says the Samsung Viewfinity S9 and Smart Monitor M8 are both new 27-inch monitors introduced at CES 2023 as competitors to the Apple's Studio Display. Samsung has introduced a handful of new monitors during CES 2023, with few targeted directly at potential Studio Display customers. The 5K Viewfinity S9 and the 4K Smart Monitor M8 are both 27-inch monitors and Apple-like design and functionality. One thing that is great about this one in particular, the M8, is that it has kind of smart TV features as well. So if you don't 100% need it, but you can download apps and stuff like that. So you can kind of use it as both a TV and a monitor, and have that convenience there just with the regular remote. This is the one I'm more interested in and would like to see how much it's going to cost. Is everybody seeing this thing that pops up? Hopefully not. There's a pop-up on my screen that just keeps happening. It's annoying. Okay, so it says the Viewfinity S9 optimized for creative professionals like graphic designers and photographers, like us, hopefully. It has been it's a 5120 by 280 resolution, so 5K. Covers 99% of the P3 wide color gamut, putting it up against the Apple Studio Display. This is huge. The monitor I have here is, I got a really great deal on it, but when it launched, it was like a $2,700 monitor, and I believe it's only 98% of the P3 color gamut. So it's a really good monitor, don't get me wrong. I got it like super crazy deal on Black Friday, but just the technology's coming a far way. But yeah, this looks like this is going to be a really nice monitor here. Here are some of the features it's built in. A built-in color calibration engine that the display is using the company's new SmartThings app for smartphones camera. The display is also matte to eliminate glare. That can be good or bad. You have to pay extra for the matte on the Apple Studio Display. It can cut down. It's like a different type of glass. But hopefully it's not too matted, because that can really hurt with the sharpness of a camera. And that's why a lot of times you see, TVs look a lot sharper sometimes than monitors do. For the inputs, it's HDMI, DisplayPort, USB-C, which is also huge. So it gives you some flexibility there, and you can get you can kind of, it also says it connects via Thunderbolt. With Thunderbolt, you can get some powers, and you can kind of do like a daisy chain if you have an Apple computer, especially. So it's really cool. Get some fast data. It says it will be available early next year. So that's pretty far off. I thought this was coming earlier this year. Price was not yet available. So I'm a little disappointed that that's not here yet. I do suspect it's going to be quite a bit cheaper than Apple, so maybe around $1,200. But we will see when it comes out. A lot of people were speculating this could actually be the same exact display that is in that camera, because I believe Samsung makes the display panel, which is funny that they make it for Apple, and that they probably has some kind of contractual agreement that would actually explain why it would be next year and not this year. The 27-inch Smart Monitor M8, which is also one thing great, sorry about this monitor, don't mean to digress, but this Viewfinity monitor, you can actually do a complete tilt on this. So that's pretty great. You don't have the same issues. Like, you can tilt up and down, and you can also go vertical. And I personally think that's a really nice feature to have. Yeah, this M8 is already here, and it can also go 90 degrees. The higher, it's not as higher pixel density as smaller display, so it's pretty good. It's not necessarily as good as what Apple's bringing you, but I believe it's like $800 or $900. So yeah, it's still very impressive. But yeah, I'm personally excited. I thought it was coming out, to be perfectly frank, I really did think it was coming out a little bit sooner than it is. So it's slightly disappointing that it's not. I thought it was going to be early 2020, considering that's a year away if it's early next year. But we'll have to wait and see. But what are your thoughts? Are you in the market for a new monitor? Do you even care about monitors at all? I think if you're a photographer and you're doing like really heavy editing and you really need some good, color accuracy, it also has a built-in color calibrator. It didn't mention in the article, but I have heard that. The webcam is also supposed to be better. But are you interested in something like that? Are you glad that you're getting a premium aluminum display that could possibly compete with at least the build functions of the Apple monitor? Or do you already have an Apple monitor? Drop in the comment section below and give me your thoughts. I would appreciate it. Helps out the channel. Hit that like button. All right, let's go ahead and go back to the comments and see what we got going on filling up here. Man, we got 10 people watching today. I very much appreciate it. Hit that like button. We only have 5 likes. So if you can't hit that like button, other than that, then let's jump here in the comment section. That would be fun. I appreciate everybody just listening. But if you're here and you can chat, I appreciate that as well. BC Taylor 46 says cameras need to match the software capabilities that smartphones have, such as computational photography. Also, they can do something like incorporating cellular capacity to upload videos. Yeah, I agree. The cellular capacity would maybe be a little harder because I don't want to have to pay monthly for cellular. I mean, if it's offered, that's okay, but I don't want to have to necessarily make that have to happen. But I completely agree with the computational photography side. Whether or not, I think what's great is even with smartphones, you can get apps like Filmora. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But you can kind of, tamper with them a little bit and kind of get more of what you want out of it. I think cameras as a whole, for professionals, it's great that they have, complete, free and, I guess all the different options that you're allowed. But especially on the automatic side, I think that that's where they need to start jumping into the computational photography, because why not at this point? If you're going to have an auto version of things and you're just going to put it in full auto, then add some of the computational stuff. And I completely agree that even if you don't have cellular capacity, if you just give it a better touchscreen and a better interface, even use Android. I think for a while there was like one camera that jumped over to Android, but then completely abandoned it. But I think you need to just build off an Android system. You don't have to have all the same apps and everything as Android, but be able to give it a possibility is a good thing. I think that they need that. I do wonder. I mean, okay, one thing that I will say, when my wife first got the iPhone 13 Pro with the camera, it was really fun to have that huge screen on it. And I know you can get external monitors for your cameras, and that's all great. But I think you need better monitors that are built in, better LCD screens that are built into your cameras, because there is an element of course, you use EVF a lot of times if you're, doing photography. And I use it for video as well some. But there is something to just being able to look at your footage and evaluate it right there on the spot and enjoy it right there on the spot. And it gives you some kind of creative feeling just to be able to paint a bigger and better picture of what's in your, composition. And and to be able to it just, a bigger screen, better screen. I think that is a needed thing, and better touch functionality. Canon seems to do it the best from what I've personally used, but it's still nowhere on par with a smartphone. So yeah, I mean, that's a big one as well in my mind. And they're going to have to adapt eventually with computational photography. The Happy Clam says Sony already has the technology. Their phone people need to work with the camera guys. Yeah, I agree. But I just think it's kind of odd. Yeah, they have the technology 100%. But I do think it's weird the way they're kind of bridging their gap. They're trying to find a niche in the camera market, the cell phone market. They haven't quite gotten there yet, because I think it's cool what they've done. They're trying to bring like more camera functionality to their smartphones, but overall they're kind of cutting down on some of the computational photography stuff that is. So a lot of times if you have like a side-by-side test, they usually do not have the dynamic range. They do not have, just some of this basic stuff. Of course, they have, actual optics in there. So you get legitimate bokeh. You get really good sensors. So you get some better low light sometimes. But considering they're not using much computational photography, even in that, sometimes you get better stuff, even if it's not as natural. People aren't 100% caring about natural. If you want to go, full natural, then you can get a film camera. But yeah, I think that's what we're all looking to do, is recreate film digitally. And Ari did it somewhat, but now we need to bring that over to more mirrorless cameras. I mean, you rig it up. I mean, you drop the sharpness. Anyways, I'm not going to go into it. You probably know all that. If you don't, drop in the comment section below. We can help you out a little bit. Other people in here know as much, if not more, than I do. And what I love about the community that has kind of just sparked up around this channel and in general the camera community. I really enjoy that y'all teach me probably more than I ever teach anybody here. And so I appreciate it. I hope that I add value as well, but I appreciate that y'all can teach me, and some people that come in here that are new. We can kind of all learn from each other, because no one of us know as much as all of us. That's for sure. If you're here, hit that like button. We'll get this out to more people. I want to go over one more story before I get to like the main Panasonic S5 Mark II, because we're going to go over the specs of that and just kind of give my general thoughts. I'm going to hit the highlights and just give my general thoughts. I kind of already give part of them, give some of it away, but we'll go into deep conversation about it. I do want to go over this one last story. It's not exactly camera related, but I think it's somewhat camera adjacent. So I'll go over this next story here. So interestingly enough, at CES, Sony has partnered up with Honda, and they've announced a new electric car. Now, what makes it very interesting for, like a camera person like myself, one of the big features that Sony is offering is they have 45 different sensors on the on this car. So they're really, making a push towards, safety and autonomy, being able to have completely full automation, self-driving cars. And I think if Sony may be the people who can actually pull this off, considering how great they are with sensor tech. Where I also kind of want to play in to this, I mean, it's very interesting that they're, partnering up with Honda here. But another thing is that I think is kind of interesting. We'll go over this. This is coming from The Verge. I actually have not necessarily 100% speculated, but I have had a theory that, Apple would love to buy Sony. And this kind of makes sense for them to buy Sony even more so, considering the Apple car is something that they're looking to get into. So I could definitely see whether or not they're fully going to actually buy them. I can see that Apple and Sony will have a deeper relationship, even more so than they've had, because the iPhone has been using Sony sensors forever. I would love to see if it's possible for, say they have deeper relationships, for Sony to start using, some Apple tech in their actual cameras, because Sony cameras could really use the processing power of Apple chips and put those in there. Their ARM chips could really take over, and they have great software. So maybe Sony could kind of play around with their software and their chips in their cameras, and maybe Apple could get better deals on their sensor technology, and they could bring that over to their Apple Car as well. So, I mean, it's very unlikely that Sony will actually be bought by Apple. I do think that Apple would love to buy them. But I don't even know if the FTC would allow that. Okay, so this is The Verge. Honda and Sony have just announced their new electric car. The two venture, they say, so this is a prototype, of course. Some prototypes at CES never even make it off the CES show floor, but they do think this is going to be in the market by 2026. The fact that it's already marketed with Honda, who are a car manufacturer, I do think that gives it a little bit more possibility that this will actually come out. Afla, I can't remember what they actually, Afila, I think is what they're actually calling this car. It looks super cool. I think it looks really neat, but they're supposed to have a lot of different functionality in it. So Sony's leveraging some experience with AI, entertainment, virtual reality, and augmented reality to present a unique EV. If I'm not mistaken, this was like the one more thing at the Sony CES event. So, I mean, maybe it is something that they're very excited and interested in getting into. Again, Apple, I think if you have the possibility of it, I would buy Sony. But that might be a big headache, but definitely partner with them more. Obviously Honda and Sony are both Japanese companies, so they're going to have that relationship already there built in. Afila represents our new concept in an interactive relationship where people feel the sensation and interactive mobility, where mobility can detect and understand people and society by utilizing sensing and AI. I think it's sensor, but sensing will work fine, and AI technologies. Over 40 sensors, including cameras, radar, ultrasonic, and LiDAR, will be embedded over this car. So, prototype form unveiled on stage looked little like the concept first revealed by Sony and CES 3 years ago. So apparently this may be something that has been in the works. I have not heard about it, but apparently it is. Several observers commented that the Leaf prototype looked like a mashup between the Porsche 911 and the Lucid Air. So yeah, they're not showing here that they will anything to do with about Apple, but I definitely think I would personally like to see more partnership with Apple. Not necessarily saying take over. I'm not saying that mergers are a good idea, but more partnership, because I want a big, amazing M1 processor or whatever they have in their iPads. Put that into a mirrorless camera with a nice body. I mean, you'll have 8K computational photography, like it'd be nut, or videography. It'll be cool. It'd be awesome, I think, personally. But what are your thoughts on this concept? Do you even see it making the light of day, or do you think this is just a CES prototype that will actually never happen, or do you think they're actually serious about it? They have put a date on it, so there is that. All right, let's go back to the comments, and we'll get over to some of the actual main stuff here. Okay, so no more comments here. Nobody cares about a car. I didn't think anybody would really care about the car, but I figured I'd go over it. I'm not a monster. I'm just kidding. I did think that it would be interesting with their sensors that they're putting in. I think if anybody can solve self-driving, I think Sony could possibly be the one to help out. Yeah, Honda's already been established for what are they, almost going on like 70 years or 80 years almost now. So yeah, they're already an established car company. And to be partnered with Sony with their sensors, they have the sensors to make it happen. Man, sorry. All right, I'm going to go ahead to the last story. Be throwing in your comments. If you're here and you haven't happened to subscribe yet, and you've been watching this channel and you enjoy what I'm doing here, I'd very much appreciate a subscribe. The channel's been a little bit slower lately. We've had Christmas stuff going on. There hasn't been quite as much news, so that's kind of expected. But I'm trying some new stuff with this live and breaking it out into clips. I really hope it is a new way, a new niche of doing things, and I hope that you're enjoying it. And if you are, consider subscribing. Very much helps me out. It helps me invest in this studio. It helps me invest in new equipment, and hopefully it helps me become a better presenter and higher quality videos for everybody. So hopefully it's a win-win. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. All right, let me go over here to the main event. So Panasonic, the new Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II has officially been announced, and also the S5 II the S5 IIX has also been announced. Both are pretty exciting cameras, and they finally have the Panasonic AF phase detect autofocus. So that's big on its own. They're finally getting rid of the trash autofocus, and it seems like for a first outing they may have done a good job. But let me go over some of the highlights. So we'll talk about the people who's actually had it in their hands and what some of the impressions have been. So this is on B&H right now. It comes in at $1,900, or well, $1,997, so right at $2,000. But for the specs, this is not bad. This is a 24.2 megapixel CMOS sensor. Now, what I find interesting, a lot of people, are just saying, oh, it's not BSI, it's not going to have the dynamic range of Sony and stuff like that. But Canon has started to do some really good stuff with CMOS. I mean, they're not maybe quite on par with BSI, but from what I've seen with some of the tests, I mean, it's good enough. It has pretty good dynamic range. They're getting, I think it was 14.1 stops is what Gerald Undone actually had in his testing. So they when they say 14 plus, they actually are giving us 14 plus, which is good. A lot of times manufacturers say 14 plus and then they don't quite give that to us. But with the clean stops, I think you're right around 12.8. So really good stuff. I personally think that is plenty, especially for the price and the value here. 4K 60 is cropped at an APS-C at 422 10-bit. Unlimited because they have a fan. This thing is not going to overheat. You have, the flip screen, the tilt flip screen, the 5-axis sensor shift technology stabilization, or sorry, 5-axis, the stabilization here. This is probably the most exciting thing for me as my light goes out in the background. This is probably the most exciting thing that I saw come out of this camera is just the amazing IBIS that I saw. So, some cameras will say, they say 6.5 stops. I think if you actually have, image stabilized lens as well. Canon is marketing 8, and so is Sony. They're marketing 8 with their new technology with the R5 that recently came out. But this seems to be the best autofocus. So don't always just listen to the steps. A lot of that is marketing. The practical use that I saw out of it, it looks super gimbal-like, and the wobbling isn't that bad. It's not too much warp in the sides. So I think it looks great. I think they're even going to fix it even better in firmware. That excites me the most about this camera, besides the price and the value that you're getting out of it. Dual CF Express, dual USB 2 cards. It's plenty. It didn't need a CF Express card. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, nothing special there. This does offer 6K 30 at 420 10-bit. This is long op. It's not all intra. Some people will think that is a super downer. To me, it's not that big of a deal. One thing that I think is a big deal is in 6K 30. So at 5.9K, you're actually getting the 16:9, which is the standard video. But if you go to the 6K 30, you're actually getting a 3:2 image, which, if you know a lot about, what a lot of people are creating things for social media at this point, and even if you're not a content creator or you're not even caring about vertical video whatsoever, a lot of the people who are your clients, you're creating for them. They may have a real estate business or any kind of other stuff like that. And if you're creating, marketing videos for them, a lot of times they want to be able to repurpose it, maybe not just use it on YouTube or in any traditional marketing. They're also wanting that vertical. So to be able to shoot in 3.2 at 6K is really good and impressive. And it gives you just enough that if you're going to be able, you're still going to have to crop in a bit in order to, fill out that vertical space. But it's going to be an interesting new way of shooting things. I think that 3.2 should be something that pretty much all camera manufacturers should start putting into their arsenal, especially with the way things are going with TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram, all of them. 3.68 million dot EVF. Nothing spectacular there, but not a bad thing as well. This is the big one. This is 799 phase detect. One thing that I thought was super impressive about this phase detect. First off, this is its first outing. It's not the best implementation. It's not up there with Sony and Canon in my mind, but and you don't get a lot of the animal eye autofocus. You get human eye autofocus, and you get animal detection. But overall, as long as the animal detection is working appropriately, that's fine. What I do think is really good is their lenses are already have that. A lot of times you get a weird pulsing, not just with the autofocus, but you get a weird pulsing in Sony cameras as well as, most Canon cameras, where so much so that they have to start cropping in, where you kind of have that weird pulse in and out once it actually comes into focus. And with their phase detect, it looked super smooth and it looked very cinema-like. And so if you're a videographer, I think this is a really smart option for you, or it's definitely something to consider and take a look at. And I think that they look like they've really been able to dial their autofocus in to, maybe it's not the most responsive, maybe it doesn't pick everything up the best. Definitely a huge improvement, and definitely a very cinematic roll off. It doesn't have a weird, like I said, it seems to naturally move into things. And I think that they're learning a lot from the fact that they've been used for a long time in actual very professional shoots. So I'm very impressed by it. It seems like the ISO performance is pretty good. It's up to 30 frames per second electronic. I'm not sure how usable it is, based upon, it's not the fastest sensor in the world, not the fastest processor. But it's there. Mechanical shutter's like 9. It's maybe not as snappy as Sony or Canon, but definitely on the video features, this is some good stuff. One of the things that I think is really good about it too is in the video features, you're getting scopes. I don't know if they give you false colors, but they're giving you a lot of different options. They give you the full size HDMI port. It's just very professional. You get your LUTs. You're able to, actually bake in a LUT. So that's good. You also can use your LUT as just a monitoring tool. So they're doing a lot of things that I think most camera manufacturers are trying to differentiate, and they're doing very well with the hybrid stuff. And like, if, for example, Sony would make you buy an FX3 or an FX30, They're not put into the A7S III apparently, which is very disappointing. Canon would make you buy one of their C cameras or one of their higher end cinema cameras, but it looks like Panasonic, I think they have a winner here, especially for the value. The XLR input, your digital hot shoe, I guess it's right there for optional version. I'm very impressed by it. And what is more impressive to me is this price point. I think it's very aggressive. I think that's what Panasonic needs to do. I like Panasonic overall. I think that they've been a phase detect autofocus away from being the best camera for 2 or 3 years. I think if the S1H 3 years ago had phase detect, I think we'd have a very different camera landscape. Hopefully it's not too late for Panasonic, and hopefully this bodes well for an S1 Mark II or an S1H Mark II. Obviously they're going to be bringing the phase detect into that as well. And just the amount of value that they're packing into this camera, I think it's definitely an option worth looking into. So what are your thoughts on this S5 Mark II? Drop in the comment section below and let me know. Do you think it is being overhyped? Are you excited that Panasonic has finally brought phase detect autofocus? Are you impressed considering it's the first outing? And do you like it the way that I do, as far as to be able to have that really smooth roll off? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. All right, let's get back to the live stream here now. All right. We do have some people watching here. If you are here, hit that like button, drop in the comments. This last bit of the live stream is going to be all about talking to everybody. So get your comments in and we'll have a good conversation. Okay. BC Taylor 46 said it's not going to happen. I think he's talking about the Apple thing. And yeah, you're right. I'm not saying that Apple's going to buy them 100%. I doubt it's going to happen, but I would like to see them integrate better chips and get some technology from Apple, because they're not direct competitors there. I mean, Sony does some with computers and very little with smartphones, but I can see a deal being worked out where, hey, we're going to give you better deals on these camera sensors, and we're going to let you use our sensor technology for your new cars and your new VR system that you're developing as well. We're going to have a better partnership and maybe, get some better chips in there, please. Because to be honest, cameras are like 2 or 3 years behind in processing power. And that's one thing that they need to change if they're going to make like we were just hearing up here, you're talking about the Happy Clam, talking about how expensive cameras have gotten. They've always been expensive, but I think more so than ever, they need to justify that price. I'm sorry about the background lights. Hopefully it hasn't distracted. Went longer than I expected because of COVID. My voice is kind of going out. Okay, so it says, the Happy Clam says, that's a nice camera and it takes Leica lenses. So there's glass. Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that part. I mean, they're the L-mount Alliance as well. But Leica lenses are expensive. So it's saving you on the camera, but they're going to hit you with that lens. But I think what it does show is, say you have the S1 Mark II that comes out, or the S1H Mark II, that are more expensive, more professional cameras, then definitely you can get some nice Leica lenses on it. BC Taylor 46 says the S5 II will definitely be my first camera. Yes, I like it. I considered the FX30 like you suggested, but I do some photo capabilities. Okay, so yeah, I thought that maybe you, but I gave. He was asking about what I thought about the S5 Mark II, and I was meaning to go back to your comment. I'm glad that you're here, BC, because you were asking what I thought about it. I said wait for the reviews, and the reviews are in. And to me, I was gonna put on there and say, hey, I think you have a good camera on your hands if you decide to go down that route. Go for it, man. I'm glad to hear that Panasonic is winning a fan, and I hope it turns out great for you. I think it looks like a really good camera. So yeah, go for it, man. I really, really, I'm assuming you're a man just by my analytics. Uh, but I know Taylor can be a girl's name as well. Not in a bad way. Just it's never mind. But yeah. Anyways, go for it. I think it's a good camera. Let me know. Let us all know. What your experience like is with it. He is. If it's who I think it is, he is actually on. He's in the Navy as a fitness instructor, or he works with the Navy as a fitness instructor, and they want him to start doing more video content and being able to implement that into maybe making some training videos. I don't know the exact details. And he was asking about that camera. I think it's a good one. Edward Scott says the S5 Mark II is what the FX3, I'm guessing he's about to say A7S3 and R5C should have been. Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily. I'm not. Yeah, FX30. I guess so. That's what he was trying to say. I definitely think they have pros and cons there. I have the R5C. I'm not personally looking at the S5 Mark II and saying, "Oh man, they have." I'm not looking at it personally and super enviously yet. Now, of course, the battery is atrocious on the R5C, so that needs to be fixed. And there's some things that they could do to make it better. But the fact that this camera is literally half the price of that camera is a big thing, and I can for sure see the S1H coming out, S1H Mark II coming out with a very similar price range to the R5C and the FX3, and that camera really being like a slap in the to Canon. And I hope they come out. I want that camera to blow away Canon and Sony. I do. And with the phase auto detect, and I think I guess it's funny for some people to say, oh, you want that camera to be better than your camera? Well, yeah, absolutely. You're going to make Canon, Sony better. You're going to make Nikon better. Keep this competition going. Let's fight for that pie and make cameras better and better. In my opinion, that is a win. I don't care if you're better than my camera. I want you to be. Isotech, good to see you, man. He says, better late than never, eh? Yeah, so Isotech, appreciate you being here. So how is Australia? I believe you're from Australia as well. We were talking about this last week. If you don't know, I talked about it earlier. I do have COVID. Last week I thought I may be getting it, and today, or this week, I know I have it. I was getting way better. It was weird. Halfway through the week, literally yesterday, I was like, oh, I'm done with it. And I had to do a lot of stuff with my car and get my car fixed. And then all of a sudden today I'm waking up and I'm like, oh, what's going on? So I hope I hope I didn't pick something else up. And I hope that I'm on the other side of it. But yeah, my brain is not all there. So I appreciate everybody sticking with me and talking through everything. We do have 10 people in this live stream. I appreciate you all for being here. If you so happen to have not subscribed yet, I'm really pushing up against 2,000. I've been stuck. It's been like 1990, and then it'll go like 1992, and then 93 is the highest I saw, and then it goes back down. So anyways, I know that's not anybody's problem but my own, but I really hope that if you're here and you hadn't subscribed, because I think like 82% of the people who watch my channel the most haven't subscribed yet. So I hope that you either are subscribed or you do subscribe. Hit this like button. We can still have a conversation here. I don't know how much longer my voice is going to let me go, but I do want to conversate out here. The Happy Clam says, chicken soup made with love is known to help. Thank you. Yeah, I'm usually not a big soup guy, but you may be right. I know that's always been my dad's remedy to say, hey, chicken noodle soup, you got to do it. You got to do it. And my wife did make some chicken noodle soup. So yeah, let's I might have to dive into and take your advice and everybody's advice. Um, Isotech says, nice and sunny, been out shooting. Sorry you got the dreaded COVID, and you better, I'm guessing he says, hope you're better soon. Yeah, I will be, I believe. I had it last year. It, it was bad for a couple days, and then I was done with it. Uh, I, it was bad for a couple days this last time, as far as like, I felt like I had it, like aches and all that stuff. Um, but I said I thought I was over it until today. I woke up not with the aches, but just like pressure back in my head and my throat, my voice is kind of going down. So, anyways, there's that. Appreciate everybody being here though. Um, been out shooting. So, what are you shooting? Maybe I've asked you this before, but tell everybody. Do you actually have a channel yourself, Isotech, or where can people actually find your stuff if people want to see it? What kind of we could use this time if you're here and you might be in a region that people you know you might need a client or whatever the case is. Just in general, if you want to enjoy the community, let us know what you're shooting and what you do, and if you hear about somebody, like for example, this channel, if I hear somebody in Australia that needs somebody, then I might can send them your way, or maybe you just do it as a hobby. But either way, it's good to know. And we can all teach each other some stuff. I personally am a big sunny, like sunny person. Like I love the sunshine. I'm not big on the rain. But I do see some pretty pictures coming out of some places where they get especially like street photography in major cities where you get like the puddles reflecting everything, like in Japan or New York. It's super cool. I appreciate looking at it, but I doubt I'd like to be living in it. We are going to be coming back to Vietnam fairly soon, and we may make a trip down to Australia. My wife has family in Australia. We have a place to stay there if we do go. But I don't know if we can, the plane ticket is still a thing, that we'd have to cover, and it's already expensive trip. So we may or may not get to work it out. So yeah, maybe subscribe and, and we could get a sponsor or something. That'd be nice. Yeah. So anybody have any thoughts on any of these major stories? Anybody want to just have any questions? Anybody have any thoughts before we wrap up? I don't want to have to wrap up because I enjoy conversating with everybody, but I understand a lot of people are busy and they just are listening. So I appreciate you just being here listening. So I'm going to give it like about another minute or so if anybody wants to shoot any questions in, and we can start a conversation up. If not, that's okay. We'll call it a night. I'll let my voice rest, and I'll get back to hopefully feeling a little bit better. So yeah. I don't have a watch on, so yeah. I do have the time. I will use this if you're here, and even if you can answer this now or answer this later. What are some stuff that I can do to improve this channel? I want to be better, and I want to be better for myself, but I also want to be better for everybody else. And yeah, what can I do? I think this is an interesting niche to be able to do live streams and then clip it out. I think it's a really good use of my time. But I want to make sure that I'm doing stuff to make these live streams better and in general be better overall. So if anybody have any tips that you can either jump into the comments right now or later, I very much appreciate it. I'm here to learn. I want to bring more value. If there's topics that you'd like me to cover, if there's something I can change to improve the channel, always let me know. Very much love to learn. Love inputs here. But yeah, I think it's been about a minute. I think everybody is mostly listening at this point and they're not commenting. Oh, no. Yep. No more comments right now. Okay, so I am going. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up today. Thank you guys. Thank everybody who commented in. Anybody who's watching after the fact. I really very much appreciate you. And I hate that I hit my automatic standing desk thing here at the very end. I appreciate people tuning into the live streams. Appreciate people watching after. I appreciate the people who just watch the clips. Yeah, let's build out this channel. Like and subscribe if you do like the channel. And I just appreciate anybody who's just here watching and contributing in any way that they possibly can. And I hope that I will continue to bring value to everybody. But until next time, if I can, actually plan this out properly, peace.